Hey everyone, before we get started, I'm excited to present a new sponsor to the show, Obōz. No, shit, really, it's Obōz. Many of you already know Obōz. They're that plucky little brand from Bozeman. That's their name, folks, by the way, Outdoor Bozeman. That's how it works. They stood up in 2007 in a crowded footwear space and said, there's room for me too. They're an upstart outlier with a weird name, roomy toe box, and well-built offerings for committed hikers, a combination that has attracted a loyal following for going on 20 years. I'm happy to have Obōz join the rock fight because they are committed to shining a light on the core activity central to many of our outdoor pursuits, hiking. You know, that thing we all do but few talk about? Guys, we are unified by hiking, and they love hiking. And that's something I can get down with. Over the coming months, we'll be sharing news and products from our friends from Bozeman. So welcome to the rock fight, Obōz, and let's cue the intro.
Rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight. Here we go.
Welcome to the rock fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and joining me today, I'm pretty sure that after this past week, he's just a zombie now. It's Justin Hausman!
Folks, get your flu shot. Get it. Even if you've already had your flu shot, go out and get another one.
You're starting off with your parting shot?
This is the first year in like 10 years I haven't got the flu shot. It's the first year in about 10 years I've got the flu, and I forgot how bad it is. Jesus Christ. I've been basically sleeping for 4 days straight. I've watched Ghostbusters.
Yep, you're getting this episode late this week because Justin sounded like he couldn't talk yesterday.
And just sitting up was asking too much. I will say, I think of all the things I've watched, I was surprised by Ghostbusters Frozen Empire as being relatively enjoyable. Now, granted, this is all having a fever, but I actually was surprised how much I liked that movie. So
I might actually watch it now because I just assumed I would never see that movie.
Yeah, me too. So, I didn't see the first. I didn't realize there were two Paul Rudd Ghostbusters movies until this week, and I haven't seen the first one, Ghostbusters Afterlife. But I actually was surprised at how much I enjoyed this one, and like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray are in it, and they do great. So is Winston. I forget the actor's name.
Winston's Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, thank you, Ernie Hudson. They all do great, and it's actually really enjoyable. So that it was 4 a.m. when I watched it, but I liked that, and I enjoyed Please Don't Destroy, that new comedy troupe. That does SNL skits.
Movie?
Their movie with Conan O'Brien was pretty fun. I liked that too. Something about the treasure of like Foggy Mountain. That was pretty fun.
One of my 14-year-olds, she is really into movies. She likes a lot of old movies. We really kind of bond on movies together. But she's also at that age where everything's good. She's like, oh, Dad, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It was the best movie. And
really?
I'm like, there's no way that was the best movie.
No, it was. It was
like, okay, honey,
it was actually pretty fun. It was pretty fun.
Okay.
Paul Rudd is like getting kind of.
He's cashing
a little
paychecks,
saccharine
man.
To me. Like he's just like I'm kind of over Paul Rudd, but he's very Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
but he's in it a lot, but he's not even really. I wouldn't even say he's like the driving like star of the movie. The kid from Stranger Things is in it. Kind of carries it. I forget his name.
But they just basically say, hey, Rudd, here's like 10 to 20 million bucks. Like turn up the Ruddness.
Totally.
Basically is probably what happens, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right.
I thought it would be kind of fun if they made another one and it was super self-referential and like it turns out that Paul Rudd doesn't age because he's actually a ghost. I was thinking of that as I was watching it. Granted,
That's
again, pretty high fever at the time, but I was like, it is wild that he's like 55 years old and he looks the same as he did 20 years ago. And it's like, that would be pretty funny if there's just like, wait a minute. How come you look
in
the
order
same,
for
bro?
you to see that sequel, you'll have to get the flu again. So hopefully you never get to see that sequel.
You know who doesn't look the same is Bill Murray. Boy, he looks like an elderly gentleman at this point.
He's an old guy. I saw him on SNL 50, but anyway, Justin's back in the saddle. He's a little weaker than usual, but he's still going to bring it today. And today we are going to talk about some interesting items that have come out of the outdoor adventure community over the past few days and weeks. But before we get to any of that, if you missed Monday's episode of The Rock Fight, go back to hear if we think that outdoor retailer Sierra, maybe they're poised to take down REI. Maybe. Go listen to the episode to find out what we think about that. And be sure to come back this Friday to hear my conversation with Matt Dwyer from Patagonia, who's here to return fire at my assertion that Patagonia is not leading when it comes to PFAS. Do you want me to do your part? You want to give you a break this week? Give you a little less to say, buddy?
I got this.
You got it? Okay. All right.
Because it means that much to me that people subscribe to the Rock Fight newsletter. Because I don't know. Talking is easy because we talk anyway, but we actually have to sit down and write stuff for the newsletter. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. But no, it's great. The one that came out this week features Wes Allen opining about some more retail goodness. And if you are in any way involved in the retail industry, the outdoor retail industry, you're going to love everything that Wes writes. I mean, if you're everything from working on the floor to owning his shop, man, the guy's smart. And so, and you're only going to get that with us. He's not writing that for anybody else. So just go to our website. You get the little banner pop up that asks you to subscribe to the newsletter. Do that. Give us your email address. We're not going to share it. We're not going to do anything weird with it. We're just going to send you some real delicious exclusive content once a week. Also, we're going to ask you to do that thing where you subscribe and like us on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. I go Apple Podcasts. Colin, what's your go-to?
I do go Spotify for my pods. Mostly so there's separation between, I do Apple Music for music and I do pods on Spotify.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, because Apple Podcasts is free, I guess. Okay. For a split second, I thought maybe we were paying for like Apple Music and Spotify at the same time, which would be totally bizarre.
No. I'm not paying for Spotify. I do free Spotify for podcasts.
Okay. Excellent. Anyway, that's the whole point. However you listen to us, subscribe, follow, and that all-important 5-star rating. Pretty please.
So our top story today is presented by your hub for ultralight gear, Garage Grown Gear. Head to garagegrowngear.com and check them out. And we're going to check in on, I think we're going to call ourselves for these stories, Rock Fight Resistance Radio. Right?
I love it.
For you like that? So this past weekend, from Acadia in Maine to Joshua Tree in Southern California, protests were held at our national parks to speak out against actions taken by the Trump administration and commented on frequently here on the Rock Fight. Most specifically, the mass layoffs of national park staff. I mean, Justin, when you saw that, before I ask you that, I didn't know that was going on. I literally didn't know these protests were going on. I would have gone up the Joshua Tree and joined in. I think it was Stephen Casimiro who had posted about it. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then started to see all the news about all the other places that this was going on, which actually I thought it was cool that I didn't really know this was going on. And then it's like, boom, it hit and there are protests everywhere. And I'm like, this is great. So I was encouraged. I mean, were you encouraged seeing this go down this past weekend?
I guess I'm encouraged because it's cool to see that people care and that people will rally for this sort of thing. I'm not encouraged by what's going on. I mean, also just yesterday they announced closures of like 20 different national park unit facilities. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see this one. Are we breaking news here? What happened? What was
not
this
really.
one?
Nothing huge, but like from basically across everywhere from Alaska to like Florida. They announced that they want to close like 20 different. It's not necessarily park units. It's like a facility center here or something here, but they're like important because it's like they something is served from that building. I think one of them is like the only national park unit in Mississippi is getting closed.
Poor Mississippi. Is there any more beaten down state
right?
than Mississippi?
I mean, it's hard to be encouraged by that. So to be encouraged by anything going on with national parks, but it is great to see that people care. I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There was a really interesting piece in the Guardian earlier this week that's I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with politics. I'll just mention this. That makes it seem as though it doesn't really matter what people do because the GOP at an individual level, the Congress people are terrified for their lives if they vote against anything that the administration wants to do because the followers will come after them. And so it's like, well, great, you can have all the protests on Earth, but like that might not move the needle. So I don't know. It'll be interesting obviously it'll be interesting to see what's going on. Encouraged by the fact that people are going to stand up and fight for these places, and it just the real discouraging part is it's like we're going to have so much work to do once we finally like rid ourselves of this scourge,
I think we got to go through it though. I think we almost had like a stay of execution with the break in Trump presidencies, and even if he had lost this time, we are gonna have to go through this at some point. I think there's too many people out there who think that he was truly going to come in and like make things better, and they need to feel the pain of what we are all going to endure. And this is beyond the national parks, right? This is everything else that's going to happen, and that's how we put it in the past. I almost feel like we have to kind of. It's like Andy Dufresne climbing through 500 yards of shit-smelling fountains only to come out clean on the other side.
Yeah, maybe.
I think we need to have our Andy Dufresne moment here.
Yeah, maybe. But it also, there's a very good chance that it'll be impossible to claw back some of these losses. I don't know. We'll find out.
It probably is. There will be some losses along the way.
But it also could mean that we emerge more protective of the places that we have. I don't know. I truthfully don't know. But definitely stoked to see people doing it. I almost bought the Mountain Gazette is very that Rogie man very smartly cashing in on. I don't know if you've seen, but they're selling shirts now with an image of the upside down flag on El Cap. Pretty
Yeah.
smart. I wish I would have thought of that for us, to be honest.
We actually had a listener reach out that he's making stickers that say it's an illustration of the
cool.
upside down
Okay.
flag on OCAP.
Yeah, I guess you can't really
and it says,
copyright
keep your
that.
tiny hands off of our public lands.
That's great. See, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I actually like that
Yeah.
better. I would have bought one if it didn't have the Mountain Gazette logo on it, and it's pretty expensive. But I mean, that stuff all makes me happy, you know.
Yeah, right.
And so, I don't know. I have faith in human beings. You know, like I'm optimistic about that. I'm encouraged about how people are reacting, for sure.
Well, another bit of encouraging and interesting conservation news. According to GearJunkie.com this past week, the Red River Gorges Climbing Coalition, which is a nonprofit dedicated to protecting climbing access in the famous Kentucky climbing area, they acquired 700 acres and 14 miles of cliffline for $1.7 million. When the land became available, the coalition was eager to pursue buying it, but the price tag made it seem out of reach. But through partnerships and loans, along with the public support to help repay those loans, they were able to get it done. And now this area will feature an entirely new climbing area. They're going to expand climbing in this area. Now, I know it's not a one-for-one because this wasn't a piece of public lands, but is this a bit of a roadmap to combat the selling off of our public lands? It's like, hey, all right, everybody. It's like, okay, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
We'll compete with the oil companies.
It's interesting. I mean, this is kind of a fever dream for like old school conservatism, right? Where you're just like the government doesn't have anything to say over this sort of thing. Like people come together to put their own money in and buy stuff that matters to them. I mean, like in some ways, in some like weird, like purely on paper, where you just sort of eliminate human greed and like instinct and all these sorts of things, which is, as far as I'm concerned, how conservatives like to live, you know, where you just, I could see the argument for this, right? That this kind of in some ways makes more sense because now not everybody is paying for a place that they may not use.
If it's fair.
like that,
the problem is
right?
it's not going to be fair,
Right.
It's going to be like, we're going to put this up for sale, and then you're going to say, I'm going to buy it. Like, no, it's all right. We're going to have these oil companies buy it.
Well,
right?
that's what's going to happen eventually, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
like, clearly
Right.
this land wasn't valuable for anything other than climbing. So, like that, the problem is going to as soon as like for some reason something is more valuable than for something else, there's some sort of resource that can be extracted from it. You know, big pocketed people will come in and buy it and leave us with nothing. So that, I mean, there's the problem. But I think this kind of thing is really interesting. I think it's certainly an option for. I mean, I don't know. Like, what would be kind of neat is if like I can't even think of a good example. But like if there were I don't know if there were like areas of public lands that would be really good for one particular purpose, like mountain biking, for example, where you can't mountain bike now. Mm-hmm. And like mountain bike groups got together and like bought it and like built trails on it that kind of, and they didn't have to worry as much about like federally, like, getting through all the red tape of like federal bureaucracy in terms of environmental reviews and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But these are people that really care about the land and care about that area and like somehow know that building trails on it isn't going to harm anything. Like I don't hate that. Like that makes a lot of sense to me, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think the problem is when you go down that road, like what if like your favorite spot up in the Sierra that's on BLM land where you camp a lot, like became available and you're like, sweet, I'm going to buy it. And then you can just be like, fuck, everybody stay off of my land. And you shut it down and no one else gets to use it again. Right. But I do like the idea that like, hey, the Rock Fight could buy a big parcel of land, like out in like the desert or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting solution potentially depending on how it works. You know, like, are they going to charge people to come onto it? I don't know. Are they liable for people falling and hurting themselves? I don't know how any of that would work. But I'm willing to have an open mind about that kind of thing. Absolutely.
If you're a climber, though, in Kentucky, how stoked are you right now? Like, the local climber coalition bought 14 miles of cliffline, and they're just going to develop it for more climbing.
Did you? I haven't looked into this. Like, was it used for climbing before? Like, what was it? What was the land used for?
I mean, the Red Rivers Gorge is a famous climbing area, so like it's either adjacent or part of that. I think it's just a section of it. I don't know if there was relationships with private ownership, so people could climb on it. What the story was there? But it's been a few years that this area came available, and I think they immediately saw it like as an opportunity, and it just obviously took time to kind of figure it out. So and I imagine to your point, there was not like a larger use for it. Otherwise, someone probably would have gobbled it up much more quickly because 700 acres for $1.7 million. I'm sure to some people that doesn't seem like a lot of money for that amount of land.
Yeah,
so
it seems like nothing. Especially, Kentucky has a lot of beautiful areas.
Yeah, totally. But if you're like a nonprofit climbing organization, that's a lot of money, right? So how do you figure it out? I'm just glad they did. Such a cool story.
Well, we have a couple little. I mean, this is probably pretty common in areas that are adjacent to rural zones, but we have a couple little just like small acreages, kind of like abutting our town where I live, that are like up for sale and they kind of have been for like a really long time, and the owner doesn't live around here, and people use it. Like, and the owners like just don't do anything stupid, basically. So like people use it. There's mountain bike trails on it. There's hiking trails on it. People go up there. And like the town has tried to put money together to buy some of these before. I don't know why necessarily. Like, I'm not sure what they would do with it other than maybe making it a public park. But at that point, then now all of a sudden you're like, well, you're probably not going to be able to have bikes on it anymore. And like all these more formal rules start to come into place. And it's like, well, that's kind of nice just how it is. Like, you know, so, I mean, as much as I'm, you know, very much, staunch, like old fashioned liberal Democrat, like there's times where like not having, you know, state ownership of things kind of works out really nicely. So I don't know.
You could buy it, and then what is it? Justin Con or Kona Con? What was it we said last year? The alternative to the sea otter that you were going to have at your house. Do you remember?
Oh my God, I do remember that. No, I don't remember what it was called.
That's where you could hold it. It'd be great. Houseman Con, get up here and go mountain biking on Justin's private land.
I'm not an idiot though. I realize, of course, the problem with this sort of thing is that like if you just open the floodgates to anybody doing whatever they want, all of a sudden things get destroyed real fast, and there's no common like, you know, management strategy for particular areas, and it fucks everything up. Believe me, I realize this, but it's sort of your fever dream. Oh, it'd be nice if I could ride bikes over there. This sort of thing does make sense.
Yeah. On face value, privatization makes a ton of sense. It's like, hey, turn it up. I'll have somebody privately run it. They'll be invested in maintaining it and making money from it, and they'll do all the right things because of that. Just then when you start peeling back that onion, you realize like, oh, actually, a lot of bad shit can happen here. So maybe not so good.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're gonna, we're only, let's see, modern humans evolved about 150,000 years ago, roughly speaking. I mean, we still don't know how to share. We still just don't.
As evidenced by the 2 toddlers in your house.
Totally. You know, where it's like,
Yeah, right.
I'd love to, gotta be nice if you could somehow, I don't know how this would work, but if you could somehow, well, I guess if you were a god, you could just sit back and like watch like humans evolve. Like, are we better now than we used to be? I doubt it. Frankly, I think human nature is probably human nature, and people still suck just as much as they always have. But
I'm sure we've evolved to a certain degree and learned, and these behaviors have changed.
I think if you're comfortable, maybe,
much.
but not if you're uncomfortable, right? Then it just becomes every man for himself. I gotta feed myself and my family or whatever. But it's just like, God, we just cannot. Yeah. We just still can't. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to. It's really...
Maybe. Guess what? We won't be here to find out.
We are not going to be here to find out.
Good luck, future humans.
Yeah.
Actually, we're not going to... Justin and I are applying for a spot on the International Space Station to get the hell off this planet. I think we could podcast up there. We'll just be up in space, zipping around, doing podcasts.
My fear would be we'd have a lot less to talk about because, we wouldn't see much or do much. We'd run out of things like,
what would you do today? Like, looked out the window.
Yeah, here's what anti-gravity does to
Walked on the treadmill.
this, that, or the other substance. And once we kind of ran through all those substances we could test, I don't know what else we'd talk about. I mean, we'd probably get really good at like peeing at stuff, right? Like, I'd be so curious how that worked. Like, if you just like let her fly like in orbit,
let her rip
or whatever. Like, what happens?
I'd yell like, dude, I ran into your piss again.
Does it like corkscrew? Like what?
I think it just goes everywhere.
On?
Yeah. All right, well, that segment, sorry about that, Garage Grown Gear, was brought to you by Garage
Lloyd.
Grown Gear, who has all the
Lloyd
latest
wonders
ultralight
these things too.
gear.
Lloyd's probably been thinking about this sort of stuff.
You know what? Lloyd Vogel, G-Man Lloyd Vogel, has definitely thought about all of this stuff. But GGG has all the latest ultralight backpacking gear you need for your next outdoor adventure. Whether you're a seasoned gear nerd or a backpacking novice, you can browse the pages of Garage Grown Gear to discover the gear you need and you want. Checking out their updated backpacking checklist is a great place to start to make sure you've got everything for your trip. Check out the link in the show notes or just head to garagegrowngear.com to check it out. Did you see they're bringing in their footwear brand, their first footwear brand? Do you see who it is?
Is it, can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Norda?
It is!
Yes. Good for them. Good. I talked to Lloyd a little bit about that. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen.
I have my first pair I have my Nordas coming on the way too. I'm getting a pair of Nordas.
Oh, nice. Which ones? Do you know?
Yeah. 002s.
Okay. I have the ones and the twos, I think.
Okay, the twos are a little lower profile midsole, I think.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Compared to the ones.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And you forgive me, you haven't tried them ever, right?
No.
Oh,
no,
man,
no.
I can't wait to hear. I hope you hate them because it'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. We'll only talk about the podcast. We promise we'll only talk about the podcast if I hate them.
Well, because I love them so much. And, if you just like, these are also great, that's not very interesting. But
that's not like, Love Fest, Norda.
Yeah.
Advertise. You're listening to Rockfight Radio. Oh, you got DJ CT back with you spinning the hits, and it's that time because we have another new song from that hit machine, Fitz. And Fitz wants to ask you, why just settle for a smart sock when you can opt for a smarter sock?
You've got a million choices lying on the floor. Thin ones, thick ones, even some you never wore. But there's a sock whose specs rise above the rest. Don't settle for a smart one when the smarter sock is best. Opt for the smarter sock. Fits. Fits is the smarter sock. Fits. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fits. Opt for the smarter sock. Fits. Whole foot comfort is the goal. It's only common sense with 4 different patents. The difference is immense. The Y line's added volume really is legit to the next level. Comfort of the fit we call Fits. Opt for the smarter sock. Fits. Fits is the smarter sock. Fits. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fits. Opt for the smarter sock. Fits. Smarter sock. Fits. Fits is the smarter sock. Fits. Whole foot comfort is the answer to the question of the knit. Fits. Opt for the smarter sock. Fits.
And now, back to the show. All right, we got a new segment today presented by our friends at Obōz who want to know, how do you love hiking? And we're going to count the ways we love hiking in a minute. But right now, we're getting quite a bit of email from our listeners, which is awesome. But in order to make the email we get more fun to read on the podcast, we're going to start asking our listeners questions. All right, so this is Q&A Corner. We're going to talk about a topic, and then listeners, you send us your responses to the questions we ask. Be sure to include your address, because if we read your response on a future episode of The Rock Fight, we'll send you Rock Fight stickers. Maybe make you a personalized Rock Fight action figure.
Aw.
I don't want to speak for producer Dave or sign in on that one. But
get on it,
okay.
Dave. Do it for the people.
Because all of a sudden it's like, hey, Dave, you got those like 20 action figures we didn't tell you that you had to make?
He loves it.
Did you see this week's?
No. Oh, the
Pissed Off Park Ranger?
Yeah, it's great.
That was a good one. All right, so this week's question for Q&A Corner, and I'm really been thinking about this a lot lately.
Yeah.
Does anyone, I think you and I have touched on this before,
Sure.
but even if so, I have some new thoughts. Does anyone actually care about sponsored athletes anymore?
What do you
so
think?
listeners,
what do you think?
Does anyone care?
What do you think, Colin? I know what I think. What do you?
I know
think,
you don't.
Well, no, but I mean, like, what do you think the listeners are going to say? Like, what do you think the dominant response will be?
I mean, I think it'll probably be split. I think there's
Really?
going to be people who really get into it. Because I think, so I was having an exchange with one of the hosts over on the Out of Collective podcast. We were kind of joking back and forth on Instagram. And he was bringing up the point that he thinks that the ski athletes should have guaranteed contracts.
Oh.
That, like, no matter what they place or how they do get there on the podium or not, they should be guaranteed money. And my contention is, like, outdoor athletes are an expense, right? They're not earning money for a brand. So if the brand all of a sudden gets in tough times, it's like, yeah, we don't have money to pay you. So how can you have a guaranteed contract? This isn't like Josh Allen who sold like 1,000 jerseys in a weekend, right? And like there's money being brought in by their presence on the team. So
then I think we need to reframe I think we need to restructure the question a little bit.
Okay.
Does anyone? I would say it's more like, does anyone actually care about the brand because they sponsor an athlete that you like? Isn't that what you're really
All right, I like that.
getting after? Because it's like.
It is.
Because what the way that if you just say care about sponsored athletes, that makes me think about, do I care about like famous or not famous necessarily, but really talented people doing things that are really amazing and watching them do it? Yes, I do care. And they happen to be sponsored. I think people might get confused and be like, well, yeah, I love watching so and so ski, right? But like, do you care about Atomic skis because so-and-so rides for them? Isn't that kind of what we're more getting at here?
Kind of. I mean, I think the thing that's changed is like back in the day, like even if like you didn't whitewater kayak in the 90s, you still knew who Eric Jackson was, or like you knew who like Ned Overend was, even if you weren't
and that's
a
cool.
mountain
There's
biker,
nothing wrong. That's
right?
great. Yeah.
But now, like, I feel like it's getting more niche, right? Because like last week, Mountain Hardwear announced, what's her name? Liz Durstein. I don't know who Liz Durstein is.
I've
She's a
heard of
new
her.
long distance hiker and trail runner.
Yep, that's right.
Who's joining the Mountain Hardwear athlete team.
Okay.
But it's like, what does that really? No offense to Liz, I'm sure she's a wonderful athlete. But what does it do for the brand? Who's going? Oh, hardware. They got Liz, and now I'm going to go shop.
But that's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Like, does a brand's roster influence whether or not you like the brand more? I mean, because that's the only reason they sponsor these.
That's
athletes.
kind of what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I want to make sure that's what we're asking. Not like,
I mean, does it work for you on the surf side? Are there any brands that, and I know this is a hard question for you because you and I are kind of aligned on this. It's like, I'm going to buy what I want to buy regardless of who's on the athlete roster. But do you feel like there is an effect on a surf brand that is truly felt by the presence of their athlete?
The only time I would say that, I think for younger surfers, probably. I can tell you right now that it never really did for me. But I also came of age in the 90s in the surf world when it was extremely cool. Like Volcom was by far the coolest brand because they were anti-establishment. So like you wouldn't be caught dead with like a Quicksilver or like a Rip Curl shirt on.
Right.
And so like I cut my teeth in an anti-surf industry world. I loved, like, my favorite surfers. Like everybody hated Kelly Slater in the 90s, for example, because he was this like not even a rock star. He was like a jock for like Quicksilver. So he was boring. I don't like him. Anyway, and so I come from that place, naturally speaking. So I would say that in this, as far as the surf world goes, no. But except when it's like, if you're like an aging surfer and there's someone that surfs well that you like, and they ride a certain brand of board, yeah, that will turn my head because I'll be like, oh, this brand is making boards for like bigger older surfers who surf a certain way, and that's how I want to surf. But that's a little different than, well, I don't know. That's probably the same thing for snowboarders or skiers or cyclists.
No, I mean, like, again, not to pick on Liz. I don't know Liz. I mean, she could be. I'm sure she's amazing, but it's also like, she's a hiker and a runner, and we're talking about just like outdoor apparel. So I mean, like, I get the board. Maybe a gear thing is a little bit of a different conversation, right? Because it's like if you recognize, oh, that person might surf more like I do, I can make that correlation. I might be more interested in their products, but even then, it still feels kind of like a stretch to me.
Right. No, I see. Also, we're a little bit like, it's hard for us because we also know. I mean, anybody listening to the Rock Fight knows, but like we know that if like all of a sudden Shantae Salaberry is sponsored by Ultra, where it's like, well, she wants to get paid. That doesn't necessarily mean she thinks Ultra's the best shoes in the world. And like I realize that like regular consumers who aren't in the outdoor industry know that too. But like I think there's certainly a point at which, if you've heard of a person and you see them rocking a brand's gear, you assume that gear is authentic or good enough to get you to do whatever they're doing. Obviously, that's the whole point of doing any of this. But I mean, I'd like to get back to my own question, which I asked you, which is, what do you think readers would think? I have to assume that most people will say they don't really give a shit. Like I find it hard to believe that people really care that much about sponsored outdoor athletes.
I think, yeah.
I mean, they might in the ski world and the snowboard world if you're a younger participant, because you'll have like heroes and idols that you look up to, and you might buy their shit because you think that. And I don't do those things. So I have no idea who's cool now, but because so and so is your favorite, you're gonna wear their hoodies or whatever. But like I find it pretty hard to believe, especially in like the hiking and like trail running segments. You're probably so particular about what you like and don't like. Like, why would you change that based on a sponsored athlete?
Well, let's talk about one in the ski world, because there's Michaela Schifrin is objectively now the most accomplished U.S. skier of all time.
Yeah,
right. She won her 100th race. She's incredible. Yeah. Right. All she does is go out and beat everybody.
Sure.
And she's sponsored by Barilla, right? The pasta brand.
I don't eat burrito.
That's kind of weird.
That's not very good. It's not even. That's like a low shelf pasta.
Like, what's in it for them?
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, good question. I mean, I've never understood any of the sponsorship thing. I really don't. I mean, like you see a sticker on her helmet, and you know, pasta. Probably that's really it, right? They know she's. I'm
just trying to picture the meeting. We're like, guys, you know what? We need to get bigger in snow sports. They're not eating enough pasta over there. So what do we do? Like, Michaela Schifrin.
I mean, it's never really made a lot of sense to me. So.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. Like going back with Adam X about like, he's like, and I get what I appreciate the sentiment of what he's saying, because it's like athletes, he wants them to get paid. I also think that I guess mostly my beef is they can't make a correlation between outdoor athletes and like professional, like mainstream sports athletes. Those people generate income.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
These are mostly people who are looking for gear to enable their outdoor activities and maybe make some money as well.
Right.
So there are the Michaela Schifrins and the Jimmy Chins and the Alex Honolds, and I get that. But for the most part, most people you're going to see on an athlete team, unless you're really deep into the sport, you're probably not going to really know who it is.
Yeah, I would think so.
Versus back in the day, we used to know.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I've heard of Liz Durstein, probably because I've probably written about her for something she did at Adventure Journal, something like that. But I mean, if we haven't heard, like, if frankly, I don't know how this sounds, if someone like me hasn't heard of someone being sponsored by like a brand like that, like, there must just be a huge social media influence. Otherwise, like, it's weird that I wouldn't know who that person is just because I spend all day scouring outdoor news stuff all the time. So it's like, well, there's no way some rando who's like walking into a REI is going to know who this person is. No way.
All right. So listeners, answer the question.
This is a good one.
I mean, answer it any way you feel comfortable. Like, do they matter? Will they influence what you'll buy? You know, what is the role of the athlete in the outdoor industry in 2025?
I love that.
We want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Right, so send your replies and answers to myrockfight@gmail.com. We want to hear from you on this topic. We're going to have another topic for you next week, but send it in so we can answer your questions. If you do, we'll send you stickers. Maybe a little action figure action over there on our AI that makes those action figures. Q&A Corner on the Rock Fight is presented by Obōz, who are helping us ask the question, how do I love hiking? And let me count the ways, right? Number one, we love hiking because hiking are leg days that don't suck. That's just true.
Yeah.
Number two, hiking is fresh air therapy with or without Terry Gross. You can listen to Terry Gross while you're outside, or you can.
I've never tried it with Terry. I've never hiked listening to fresh air. That's a great idea.
Terry Gross, I think, available to go hiking with you probably.
I love
for a
Terry.
small fee.
Reach out to me.
On a hike, dirt, man, it's just nature's glitter. Let's be honest.
That's a
That's
patio.
what it is.
That sounds
Get
like
a little on you.
Did you write that? That sounds like a Patty O'Connell joke.
That was a David Carstad joke. And hiking means finding your soulmates. In this case, Obōz. In this case, Roads, Rivers, and Trails of Milford, Ohio, which is one of Obōz's soulmates. If you find yourself in the greater Milford area, pop in and say hi to the folks at Roads, Rivers, and Trails. Maybe buy yourself a pair of Obōz. And that also means maybe you could pick up a pair of Obōz Bangtail insulated winter hiking boot. There's plenty. I didn't write this. There's plenty of winter left to justify picking up a pair of Bangtails featuring Vibram Arctic Grip outsole and be-dry waterproof technology. But the number one reason to buy the Bangtail, I wrote this part. It's called the Bangtail.
It's Colin approved. He's never even. Have you worn one?
No, I have a pair coming to me though. I'm very excited to try them out. Listen, Obōz, they're the Cupid to the outdoor world. All right, out of Bozeman, Montana. Obōz, they love hiking. All right, last story before we get to the parting shot. Rower, and I'm gonna mess up his name. Aramis. I'm going with Aramis. Aramis Makis
Did this person row out of the Rome like during like 100 BC? Aramis.
He was an
Makis?
extra on Gladiator 2 and just jumped right in his rowboat.
Yeah, that's a name.
So Aramis Makis was attempting to cross the Pacific Ocean and row from San Diego to, is it Brisbane or Brisbane?
First of all, it's Brisbane. I have to say that is an amazing thing, just because like Brisbane is 100% the San Diego of Australia. Like there's no,
is it really?
I didn't realize that. I had no idea those are the 2 points they're trying to connect. That's hilarious to me.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, he was getting closer to Australia's eastern coast. Last Friday, he got caught in a cyclone and had to call for help. According to Explorer's Web, when the Royal Australian Navy reached him, they saw his tiny boat being thrown about in terrifying seas. That's a quote from the article.
You never want to hear the Navy refer to terrifying seas.
Yeah, right. They know if they're terrifying or not.
Yeah, especially down there. Yeah.
So that according to the BBC, Makis was finally rescued on Monday after 3+ days of just holding on and waiting for rescue. So I wanted to ask you, like, how do we update the list of the scariest shit that can happen in the outdoors? Because we've talked a lot about animal attacks on the show, but just being in a little rowboat, being tossed around in giant seas, that might be that for days. That's just like, I was like, oh man,
God, I can't
rough
pick.
few hours.
I can't pick. I don't know which is scarier.
Yeah, I mean, the bear thing, you're going to know pretty quick what your fate is, right?
Hopefully.
The boat, it's like, hey man, it's Saturday.
I
just
feel like the animal attack
to
might
Monday.
be scarier because it's gonna hurt. Like drowning doesn't hurt, I don't think. But man, what could be? God, you'd feel so small, so helpless.
It's the duration that he had to deal with it that made me want to ask this question,
Dude,
right?
I mean, I'm literally getting the
days,
chills right now, and it could be because my fever's coming back. But I'm just imagining being on a tiny boat, and like, by the way, Australia for the last like the east coast of Australia, which is where Brisbane is, for the last like week has been pumping with the most unbelievable surf I have ever seen. And so that was a cyclone that this poor bastard was caught in.
So he's out there getting. You're watching YouTube videos of this. Meanwhile, this poor guy's getting knocked around.
That is absolutely San Diego to Brisbane. What
he was out there for over 5 months.
You got to assume that people that do this kind of thing aren't as scared by open ocean as you and I would be, right? Like this would never occur to me.
Oh, no! Like, give me anything else to do.
There's no amount. Is there an amount of money? There's no amount of money for me. None. Someone's like $1 billion, Colin. Would you try it?
I bet if we put down like a cool $500,000 in cash in front of you, you'd say, "All right."
Fuck no, I would not. Not even close. Not even close.
Just a pile of
No.
bills bundled up in
If
front
I
of you.
knew that
You're
there
like,
was
nope.
a support boat like 30 feet away from me at all times,
It's the loneliness, man. 5 months out there by yourself.
by myself with no support boat, I wouldn't. There's literally no amount of money. None.
Yeah.
None.
That's that Robert Redford movie. What was the one where he gets on the sailboat?
It's like the
that,
whole
gets
movie. He's just on
disabled?
the boat, right? Like that's the entire
Yeah, but
movie.
it kind of reinforces what you're saying is that I would never want to do
No.
this. I have no interest in being out in the middle of the ocean on really any craft.
Have you ever
if I'm
been on
being
like
honest.
a cruise or anything? Have you ever been
No.
on the open blue seas before? Like
Yes,
straight up blue seas.
I think I did we did a whale watch off the coast of New England once, and it was far enough out that you couldn't see land, and I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I did a cruise once, and like the last stretch was all just straight up, all day, all night, steaming back north. I don't know how far away from land you are, but like you are out there, and like that was epic, ish. Even though you're on like a gigantic boat, you're still like, I get claustrophobic pretty quick.
Yeah, I would launch me into space before putting me out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh boy, that's a tough call. I don't know. Again, don't know. I mean, the thing is, I feel like drowning. I've always heard that drowning is pretty peaceful. I don't know how do you know, right? But like that it's relatively peaceful, like at the end, and it
Who's
just feels
telling
like
you
at some
this?
point you just take a
They're dead.
deep breath underwater, right? And that's it.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
I
it makes
love the
sense.
ocean, so in some ways it wouldn't be. I don't know, but it's just so horrifying to contemplate.
I love the ocean too. I love being in it. I love going to it, but I think it becomes a point where it's the scariest place.
Oh, dude,
we
no
know
question,
about.
no question. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while since I've been scared in the ocean. It's been quite a while, but there's nothing else in my life that ever comes close to replicating that feeling. Nothing.
That's because you're not hanging out with Aramis Makis.
Dude,
He'll
what a
take you out in the
name.
ocean and scare you a little
I'm
bit.
surprised Aramis Makis didn't just like row right through that cyclone. I mean, he made it pretty damn far.
Well, they talk about too. Before that happened, he got caught in a whirlpool,
Oh,
and he had to backtrack, and then was trying to make it made it like a hard push towards Brisbane, but then the cyclone hit. So 5 months. This guy's a stud.
Probably so.
By the way,
weathered and fucked up.
Q&A, back to our Q&A corner there. Someone sign Aramis Makis. Give that guy an athlete's contract.
Yeah.
That guy deserves it.
Yeah, I mean,
I know
honestly,
who that is now.
Yeah,
I
right?
buy whatever he endorses.
Yeah,
All right, man, you ready for the parting shot?
I'm ready for the parting shot.
It's time for a party shot.
You want to go first or want me to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, you go first.
This is my parting shot's mean. It's mean.
Oh, all right. Is that because you're sick and you're not feeling good? You just want to be
Yeah,
surly?
maybe. I know he's not listening to the podcast, so it doesn't really matter. But my favorite outdoor writer, my favorite writer wrote a book recently. His name is Peter Heller. It's called Burn. God, I love his work. He wrote The Dog Stars, which is like top 5
Oh, you told me about
books
that
I've ever
book.
read. My God, it's good. The Painter maybe is even better. His books are always virtually the same. Like a smart outdoorsman who gets like caught up in something bad. Always, it's no matter what. Like that's effective. Sometimes there's 2 of them, but that's always the same. But the guy fly fishes. He surfs a little bit. He's a dedicated outdoors person, but he's just a beautiful writer. I mean, the man can write. But he wrote this book called Burn, and it's the first clunker I read from him. But I don't even know where I want to go with this as a parting shot, other than like I guess like don't release a book about Civil War right now. Like, nobody
More
like
the timing than the subject.
Yeah, like he didn't pull it off, but it's like there's no point at which I'm going to feel good reading this book right now. Like there's not any point. Like what is I get you're thinking about it, bro, but like it's not like I closed it when I was done with it and I was just like, oh fuck. Like that's not good. Like I don't have any like insights into the nature of humanity. I didn't particularly enjoy reading it. I just felt like kind of scared and uneasy afterward, and it's just like I don't. Also, he had 2 ideas for a book, and he merged them together, and it was like a real page turner for most of the main story of it's 2 dudes who go hunting in Maine, and they get when they're back there for like weeks, and they emerge, and like the little villages around them are all like burnt to the ground, and like what the hell?
Oh wow!
And there's like no cell reception, nothing's going on, and they have to like piece together that there's been some sort of insurrection, and like Maine is trying to secede from the Union, and like the federal government's like bringing hell to like rural Maine, to the Kennebec Valley, which is such a funny concept. But that's this, and you're like okay, and it's like them trying to figure out where to go, what to do, whose side they don't know whose side to be on. Like they have no idea what the hell's going on. They don't live in Maine, they're just there, and like
Right.
and so but then it's like half the book is these like pointless flashbacks to when they're kids, and like one of them sleeps with the other one's mom, and you're like, dude, I don't give a shit.
What?
Just like flipping through 20 pages at a time. I want to get where'd those helicopters go? Like, who's the guy with the gun? Like, it's just so annoying. I'm sitting here, I'm dead sick, like reading my favorite author of all time's book, and I'm just like, God, this book isn't even that good. I don't know what my parting shot is. Just don't bother with the book. I guess didn't like it.
I'm surprised that it was the Civil War you're trying to get back to, and not the mom porn. I'd be more into the mom porn. I feel like,
I don't know. I guess I'm not in the mood when you're like 102 degree fever.
Right.
You're like,
I got to get back to Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire.
Not in a horny mood, but like, and like I don't even want. That's the other part. It's like I don't want to read about Civil War at all right now.
Yeah,
but like,
no.
But it's still, at least it's action, and it's like I want to know what happens to the characters, and you're just like,
do you think if it was like 10 years, I mean, like if it was,
I think
in a different time frame, it would have been.
I still would have been like, why was this not just a 30-page book about the cool part, and if as opposed to a 200-page book where you clearly were just like filling it, So
yeah.
I don't know, just sorry, just didn't care for it.
All right,
didn't care for the book.
Well, there you go, good parting shot. Sorry, Peter Heller, you're in the crosshairs this week.
Yeah, don't do that again.
My part.
He also, I should say, in his defense. Yeah. He really is my favorite writer. He also wrote the only book that I've ever truly, truly loved, but also threw across the room in anger at one point. Have you ever thrown a book because of what you read in it? Because you were so mad?
I don't know if I have.
Yeah,
no, I don't think I have.
One time I ever have. Like, I might not have thrown a book, but like, I'm just reading it, you're like, no, I just threw it. Like, that's how good one of his books, called The River, which I truly love, is. And so anyway, so the dude rocks, but like, they can't all be bangers.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, my parting shot, according to muscleandfitness.com, studies show, Justin, I don't know if you heard this week, that swearing can actually boost physical performance and lead to an increase in pain tolerance.
Fuck yes.
Right? See? There we go.
Yeah.
Combine that with other studies that show that people who swear have higher intelligence than those who do not.
Fuck.
You know about that, right?
Yes. Do you just make that
up? No, that's real. That's a real thing.
That's weird. All right.
I mean, I kind of like to give myself credit for that, but no, there's studies to prove that. There's literally like higher intelligence of people who use curse words. Huh. So I'm calling on our puritanical world to abandon the phrase bad words. I want to hear priests and Mormons chanting "fuck you, cuntwad" at sporting events. I want to hear preschoolers throwing tantrums and telling their parents to fuck off. And
I don't want to hear that, because if my kids try that with me, it's not going to go well.
It.
Yeah, not going to go well.
I want to hear people at political debates start responses like, "Man, that's bullshit." How great would that be?
I don't know.
That's bullshit.
I don't know if I would like that or not. I do like decorum in some places.
No, come on, man. Swearing makes us smarter and apparently stronger. So everyone needs to do it.
The stronger pain tolerance thing, 100%, dude. Like the second someone, you have never stepped on something and not been like, fuck, ever. Or whatever that hurt.
Did you hear that, hot mic, the hockey announcer? Did you hear that? And hockey announcer literally during the game, the puck hit him in the head.
The announcer, like the play-by-play
guy calling the game. No, yeah, the play-by-play guy on TV or whatever, radio. And he's like, and the pass goes to it. You hear him go, fuck, because it hit him right in the head.
See, yeah,
totally caught on the hot mic. I'm like, yes,
yeah,
he's dealing with the pain.
Yeah. Somehow it works. It helps. I love the idea that it makes you more stronger somehow. But I mean, that's a great study.
Yeah, I'm into it. Maybe instead of HGH, you just got to swear and yell a lot of swear words, and you'll get buff.
Believe me, if that worked, I would look like that dude who plays Reacher on that show.
Dude, Alan Ritchson, man, that guy's jacked.
He's large human being.
Yes, he is. All right, everybody, that's the show. Come back on Friday for my conversation about PFAS with Matt Dwyer from Patagonia. We answer our question. Answer Q&A Corner. What do you think about outdoor athletes, and do they matter? Should we sponsor them? Should we give them more money? Should we give them less money? We want your thoughts on that. Send them to myrockfight@gmail.com. Rockfight's a production for Rockfight LLC. For Zombie Justin Hausman, I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And he's back to take us out. Chris DeMakes is going to sing it. He's going to sing the Rockfight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rockfighters.